All right, everyone, how are you? Welcome to this week's episode of our podcast. It's called Is Breakfast Included? Thanks for stopping by. Now, before we get into it, don't forget to check out our friends over at toneshopguitars.com. Check out what they have going on over there for that musician in your family or for yourself. Use the code BREAKFAST15 and receive 15% off your first online order. Let them know we sent you, and they're going to give you a free t-shirt. On the show today, Lisa and I talk with Allison David. Allison is a commercial photographer based out of Dallas, Texas. She specializes in food photography and product photography, although she does all types of photography. That's what she does. She tells us how she got into that racket and how blood oranges played a major factor in that. It was a lot of fun getting to know Allison. She was really busy, but she took the time to talk to us and give us her story and let us know where you can find her. It was a great conversation. Let's check it out. Tell everyone who you are.
My name is Allison David. I am a professional food and product photographer in Dallas, Texas.
Are you originally from Dallas?
I am from Dallas. Well, I say that I was born here. My dad was in the service, so my parents divorced when I was fairly young, and I went back and forth between them. So I lived all over the world growing up, which was, people have asked me, well, wasn't that hard? Well, no, not if it's the only experience I know to draw from. And actually, I feel like it, looking back, it was actually really great, like to be able to live in all those places. But I was born here, but I feel like I'm not really, like I've lived so many places. It's hard to say where I'm actually from, like they've all, influenced me in some way. So
yeah. Where how long have you been in Dallas presently?
I've been back here since 2015. So
okay,
almost.
That's a good run.
Yeah.
You've almost achieved your Texan status again.
How long does that take?
Oh, I don't know. I think
Bernie was there over 50 years. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I may not make that one.
And it's only taken 2 years to lose it, though.
Right.
How did you first get interested in photography, and what drew you to food?
Well, I do get asked that a lot, and I feel like it's always been in my family. Growing up, my dad was constantly taking photos and documenting everything.
Mm-hmm.
My mom too, but it was mainly my dad, was mainly on my dad's side. And so I just kind of grew up thinking, oh, well, that's what is done, is you just pictures of your life. You document your life in that way. So it was definitely in my family, in my bones, I guess. Both of my sisters are also very great photographers. So it's always been there. It's always kind of been something that I've done and been interested in, just because it was, part of my life, my whole life. What drew me to food? Yeah, I didn't even really think about the fact that food photography is an entire genre. It took that, when I heard that, I was like, what? Like, what does that include? Like, what does that mean? And then I started noticing, oh, like every single food item in the grocery store has a photo. Well, not everyone, but most of them have a photo on them.
Yeah.
Magazines have, food. And then I started saying, oh my gosh, they're everywhere. That and product photography. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, what actually I think really got me hooked and thinking about it seriously is one day when I cut open a blood orange. Have you guys ever seen the inside of a blood orange? They're gorgeous. And also they're all different. So you never really know what you're going to get. Like some of them are deep ruby red. Some are like all different colors. And I don't know what it was, but I opened that and it just like, I was mesmerized. I was mesmerized by the way, at that time I had a friend of mine actually that I lived with before I moved back to Texas. He had an old camera, and I don't remember what I posted on Facebook, but I said something like, oh, I'm going to start taking photos a little bit more. And, I need to, I'd like to get a camera. What do you guys recommend? And he offered to send me his old camera. So he did. And so I had been at that time taking a lot of photos just of everything and playing with the light and seeing what the light was like in the morning and seeing what it was like in the evening and seeing, and just all the different ways to manipulate the light and learn how to use light in the photos. And I had cut open that blood orange and the light just hit it just right. And I was like, holy wow, and I was just mesmerized. And I thought, okay.
Did you take a picture of it?
Yes, I still have it. And at that time I was using all natural light. I've since moved on to almost all studio light, but so I just could not. I just was by the window and I was playing with it and I was like just, I went back and forth to the store constantly getting blood oranges and then other things too, but that's kind of what I think the defining moment was, as silly as that sounds, cutting open a blood orange, seeing
that's
out
cool.
the light. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. So that's what did it.
Right on. How hard was it to break into that? I don't know what the scene is like in the food photography world. Like,
how hard? Well,
did you go to restaurants and go, hey, can I?
Not right away. Not right away. I actually just did a lot of it on my own. Because I'm self-taught. Whenever I do something, I'm very much self-taught. I've just kind of always been that way. So I just delved into it and I was back and forth to Central Market and Whole Foods almost every day buying stuff to photograph. So that it took me a little while. And then I have a friend who owns a restaurant here in Dallas called Toasted. And his name's Bob. I can't remember how it came to be, but I talked to him about coming in and taking some photos there. And it was just mainly for practice. So at that time. And so that went well. And at that point, I just started looking into, well, how could I make this a viable? I didn't really think about it right away. It took it's something that kind of progressed very, I wouldn't say slowly, but methodically. I was very kind of, I did stuff like that first, and then I just kind of learned what potential client, what kind of people I could potentially work with.
Did you put together a portfolio of all your?
I started to do that for sure.
All your blood oranges.
While, and it's definitely evolved. I look back at some of the stuff I used to have on my website and I'm like, oh God, that's got to come off. But, so yes, I definitely did that. And I started putting stuff on Instagram. And of course, Instagram's a very visual platform. So that's where I started to get people reaching out to me, mainly is Instagram. And what was the original question? How I reached out to clients?
Yeah.
Because that's tricky. There's, and it's the more I know, the less I know kind of thing. The more I do it, the more I realize, well, there's so much potential, but at the same time, there's so much competition and there's so many different, even pricing my work is difficult because there's no standard really. And it's at this point it's word of mouth, but at first it was me doing a lot of marketing. I do a lot of marketing on Instagram. I do a lot of marketing on Facebook now too. Outreach. And then people would just start seeing it. And I don't just do food. I do a lot of events.
Oh, okay.
I do a lot of people. People are really, I love photographing people. And I especially like photographing people in a more candid, street photography kind of situation and lifestyle portraits where they're not just sitting there, smiling. Those are great too. And I do a lot of executive headshots and they're great. They're fun, but I would prefer to take photos of somebody in their element doing what they love and capturing moments where they're not really even paying attention.
Yeah.
So I started doing more of that actually. And it just kind of, and I still do, but it's kind of like a mishmash. It kind of segued more and more into the food over time, I guess.
Yeah. Or are there any tricks of the trade? Like I watch a lot of YouTube videos and I see like cereal, but it's really glue in the cereal to make it look.
People ask me that all the time, and it's like and they're like, "Oh,
you got to pull the curtain back on this show, Allison."
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can't share them all, but no, actually, I've never ever done that. It's and do you use motor oil on your turkey? And no, I don't and probably part of it is I don't work at that level. I think once you get up to I think a lot of like really big brands probably do things like that, and they know more tricks like that. I don't really know why, except for perhaps they just know it works and will last for a photo, and they just want to get a really high end result. And I can see the benefit of that. I can definitely see the benefit of mashed potatoes for ice cream, things like that, because especially in Texas, they melt so quickly.
Yeah.
And you just have to get, I take a lot of ice cream photos. I actually recently experimented with potatoes for ice cream because it melts so quickly. It's impossible. Like I do these ice cream cones that are stacked, like 3 or 4. By the time you get to the third scoop, first of all, it has to look good. And then by the time you get there, the bottom one's melting. So it's like, ugh. So I can definitely see the benefit of it, but I don't really, for the most part, I do try to, especially if I'm working with a brand and I'm working with their product, they want their product in the shot. So they don't really want me to use,
How did the mashed potatoes come out?
They look like it looks good, actually.
Oh.
But almost too good. Like I sent it to a friend of mine and he was like, yeah, they don't look like potatoes. Or they don't look like ice cream. They look like something else. And I was like, yeah, I didn't tell him at first. And I was like, yeah, it is. It's but they were good actually, and they stayed there for a long time. Like the texture looks really nice. And so it's like you start to learn like all these different like, details and variables that are really important to a photo to look, a certain way. And I definitely got that, but a little bit to the point where it was like, those look great, but they don't necessarily look like ice cream anymore. So
was it all vanilla, or did you have to dye the ice creams to make like chocolate?
It was all vanilla, and I do I actually do a lot in post. So I did a lot afterwards to make it pink. So
cool. Okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
A lot of the editing afterwards.
Yeah. I do all my own editing as well.
Okay.
And I've actually worked with Photoshop for a long, long time, doing graphics and stuff. So I know how to navigate. I probably only know like 15% of it. I mean, it's so vast.
Huge. Yeah.
But I know enough, and I've definitely learned more doing this that I can go through and, and of course it keeps updating. So with every update, there's more cool things that it does.
Yeah.
So,
how do you could you walk us a little bit through your editing process?
Well, that's hard to say because every image is different. And like if I'm doing pack shots, which is just basically a product on a white backdrop, I completely skip over Lightroom. If I'm doing a recipe shot, I do most of it in Lightroom. Lightroom is where all the filters are and all the, So, it starts with my going through the images that I took and culling them and pulling out the best ones. And then, sometimes I start in Lightroom, sometimes I don't. There's a lot of, I don't do a ton of filters anymore necessarily, but there's a lot of like getting rid of little, imperfections, and there's a lot of like getting rid of shadow, like either getting rid of shadows in one place and adding more in another. But it totally depends. There's a lot of like sharpening of details, and especially if it's a label, like a label that needs to be really, pristine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if they want it for social media or they want to use it on their website, okay, do you want it horizontal? Do you want it vertical? I have to, crop and edit that way too. So
if they need a square,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, or
Okay.
they want both. Sometimes they want both. So I have, both of them, but
yeah.
What kind of camera do you use usually?
Canon. Okay, I use Canon products, Mark V, EOS Mark V, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I have, all the lenses. My favorite is the 100mm, the macro lens.
Okay.
Close-ups.
Yeah. I guess even with food photography, there's a human element because you have to deal with the client.
Yes.
Are they there like standing over you going, no. Do you yeah.
I rarely have that happen. I rarely have clients that well, most of them don't really want to be right there.
Yeah.
It's just kind of worked out that my process is more that I will do a lot on the front end to all that communication, all that finding out what they want, all that, send me inspirational shots. What have you liked about your photos in the past? What have you not liked about them? What do you need? What do you use these for? If they send me inspirational shots and I'm like, okay, what do you like about this one? Do you like the lighting? Do you like this? So I do a lot ahead of time to get a really good, clear vision. And I guess fortunately, like most clients will look at my website and go, I love your work. And I'm cool with, just kind of do your thing.
Yeah.
Now that can happen to a fault. I have had a couple of times where people are like, oh, just do what you do. Yeah. I'm like, well, I do need some guidance in the beginning because it can look any way, I don't want to just do all my own vision and that has turned around to bite me because I did have one client that was like, this isn't anything. I said, well, you told me to do what I wanted to do. And I was, and so it was a learning experience though. It was a great learning experience that no, I will not do that again with a new client. So I will definitely have to have some, questions in place and some, really detailed information on the front end of what they're looking for before I will agree, to.
Let's say you walk into a restaurant. Do they have everything prepared, ready, and go?
Oh.
Okay, you tell them, or
I tell them. That has happened before too, and food is very there's usually a timestamp on it, like depending on what it is, but it's and especially with drinks, I do photograph a lot of drinks, and I love photographing drinks. But I do convey this to clients that, hey, I will need to kind of let you know when to send things out, how much time I'll need with it, if I'm going to be pouring sauce on it or if I'm going to be pouring the drink kind of thing, if I'm going to need a certain kind of ice. I mean, there's just a lot of different details like that. But no, and I ask for the shot list ahead of time in those situations, like what are we going to be shooting? And if I see something that I think, oh, well, I definitely want to do that last, or I'm definitely going to need extra time with that, like I'll convey that to them. But no, it's usually like they'll wait for me to say, okay, we can start. And then they'll wait for me to say, okay, next. Because there's just certain, like you want to have, if you're photographing a burger, you want it to come right out because you want to see all the liquid. You know what I mean? Like you want it to shine.
Yeah.
If you're pouring a gravy on something or some kind of sauce, you want that to shine. And that lasts for maybe a minute.
And then it
goes away. Yeah, and then it's like, if there's vegetables there, like the oil starts to leak. It just doesn't look good. Yeah. Usually, I mean, if it's a piece of cake or something like that lasts a while, maybe, but like most food dishes have a very short period of time where they look their best.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you don't eat the food. ever?
Oh, I eat a lot of the food.
Oh, okay. The stuff that lasts. The
Oh yeah,
cakes.
I eat a lot of it, and yeah, I'm. Oh yeah, I love it. Now I eat a lot of it, and then my neighbors also get to partake. So
Yeah. So tell me, you come home with all these to-go boxes, right?
I do, and they sometimes they know, they like see me shooting, and they're like, "Oh, I knew I was going to get donuts today," or "I knew I was gonna get this today." Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
cool.
funny, but yeah. So because they're not going to do anything with that food but throw it away. So I'll I do take a lot of it
Hey.
and eat a lot of it. Oh yeah, I shot for a steakhouse a couple weeks ago, and yeah,
You had to
it
sample.
I mean, I got to take home, like 4 steaks and all that bunch, and I was like, yeah, I'll take that. I'll eat that for a week, So, yeah, it was good. So
Could
fish,
you
all the
sorry.
vegetables, yeah, it's good.
Could you talk to us a little bit about when you first felt like a professional photographer, like when you had your first project that made you think like, wow, I'm really doing this?
Yeah, and that was one of the questions. I was like, everything, to be honest, everything is it's hard for me to have like before this point I didn't feel like one, and after this point I did, because it just kind of all happened so smoothly, really. But I would say I've done a lot of work in the past for the Four Seasons. I think that was probably the first, like going up there and working with their chef, who is great, who is just the sweetest man. Well, he's moved on at this point, but he was great, very talented chef. And obviously the atmosphere was beautiful, and probably that was probably the first like really high end kind of experience that I had. And I learned a lot from that too, because they had worked with, a lot of photographers, or they still do work with a lot of different kinds of photographers. So I learned from that process, like, oh, if I want to, work with other, spaces like this or resorts or things, I want to, learn from this so that I can take that with me. That was probably it. That was probably the first one that really got me like thinking, okay, I think I can do this for a living. So,
Yeah. You still
yeah,
doubt yourself at times?
all the time. All the time. And I can't remember where I heard this or read this, but that the biggest addiction that we have is self-doubt as human beings. And I was like, yeah, well, that definitely speaks to me. That resonates with me. I have a lot of doubt, but I feel like in order to continue to improve, I have to have that. Like that's how I inspire.
It drives you, yeah.
It drives me.
Yeah.
And just having that, could I have done that better? Could I have talked to that client a little differently? Could I have photographed that a little differently? Oh, what about, okay, well, I see how they did that. Well, maybe I could do, maybe that's not doubt. Maybe that's just, I don't know, but yes, I question myself a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
with all this technology now, there's so many apps and filters and so forth that you see young people just taking pictures with their phones. What kind of advice would you give them? Like if that's all they can afford,
phone down.
Yeah.
Put the phone down. That's the advice.
And get a camera, or what?
Oh, you mean advice for
taking pictures? Yeah.
Taking better, how people take their food.
Yeah. So if it's food.
I just realized I wasn't very specific with that.
But yeah, people are on their, including me, spend way too much time on their phones in general. So, let's see. Again, it depends on the item, but there's a couple things that are, portrait mode is usually a really nice effect where it kind of blurs the background.
Yeah.
Making sure the light is good. Backlight is usually really nice. Back or side light on a dish is usually really nice. Taking a photo, like, you know, spacing, like if you're at a table with a bunch of people, kind of spacing the dishes out and taking it an overhead shot can be really nice. Yeah.
Okay.
But, those are, not having a dish to think of in front of me, that would be, I guess, the two things that are the few things that I would say.
Those are some good general tips for amateurs.
Yeah, I mean, those are absolutely, like, they can be that, those are good things to use in almost any situation, I would say. Food, yeah.
What's your favorite dish to photograph?
This
will come into play later with our last question, but
okay. Let's see. That again, that's a hard one, but I love photographing drinks. I love photographing drinks, and especially like cocktails or mocktails where there's garnish on the drink, the ice, like there's so many different things that come into play when you're photographing a drink. Like, what's the shape of the ice cube? Is it real or fake ice? Is it, I mean, and being able to do things in a certain order and then getting the result you want, that's very satisfying for me. It's like, oh, wow, it works. And I love photographing coffee as well. Ice cream is another one. Donuts. I have a client that's a pretty big donut, chain. Well, they've got like 10 or 12 locations, I think, now. But their donuts are more like little pastries. The chef is really, really great, and she comes up with some really pretty donuts. So that's become one of my favorite things to photograph. Burgers are really fun to photograph if they've been styled well. But anything really also that, produce is another one, and green produce in particular.
Okay.
And then anything where a chef has plated it.
Yeah.
That's really, because they know what they're doing. If the chef really plates it beautifully, it almost doesn't even matter what it is, because it's like a little work of art,
Yeah.
And I actually feel honored to be able to do that for them or with them.
Totally. That's awesome.
It is. They're like,
really,
they know what they're doing. And I have a lot I've learned. I mean, I always did. To me, they're kind of like rock stars, chefs, really, or any chef really, that is really passionate about what they're doing. That is very attractive to me and inspiring to me. And I love working with that energy. So, yeah.
Let me see. Do you have any upcoming projects that you're excited about?
Well, I have a lot. I always have something going on in my head where I'm like, oh, I'd really like to do that, or I'd really love to do that. And I have a lot of projects that I would love to do. If I were like 3 people, I would probably be able to do, some of them. It's just a matter of time and other things in life. But I can tell you a couple of the projects that I think about a lot. And one of them is starting to do food photography, like culinary, and food photography retreats.
Okay.
And the first one that I had thought of doing is one on a small yacht. So like chartering a small yacht. I don't know where, I don't know how long, but and then getting a chef involved somehow, and having just a small group of people who really love good food. Love dinner parties. I love dinner parties. I really love dinner parties. Like, I feel like we need to have more dinner parties than just in general. Just, the conversation, no phones, get rid of your phones, good food, good wine, that kind of thing. And to have like a group of people that really also love that, and then also have a really good chef making really good food, and then teaching them how to photograph it.
Yeah.
Would be, and like even going to like a local market and getting the food for the meal. I mean, there's that kind of thing I'm definitely playing with doing.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and I'd like to start small and kind of build up to a larger kind of thing. So that's one thing that I think about doing.
Well, that's right up Lisa's alley. So make sure you
maybe I'll join.
make sure you let us know.
Sign me up.
Okay, that's yeah.
Sounds
So
really
I mean, and that's definitely one thing I'm kind of, and I'm also considering moving someday somewhere else. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can parlay this into, a move to wherever I end up moving.
I think that sounds good for you because it has both the food photography, and then you also have the opportunity to have candid shots.
Exactly.
So you kind of have everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chefs at work. And another thought I had was to have a chef do a demonstration, I guess, where another kind of dinner party setting, but the chef is actually cooking as a presentation, and maybe he makes his own playlist of music that he likes during that, and then we all eat together after that or whatever. I just thought that, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very creative. I like that.
Not really knowing you, I would think you're just trying to have some dinner parties.
Maybe
coming up for a reason to have some dinner parties.
So fun. They're just so fun. And I haven't, I hadn't hosted one in a really long time. So, and also just trying to think, what else can I, what kind of creative things can I bring together?
Yeah.
As part of what I'm already doing that might be, different. That to me would be really, really like a really cool thing to do. I just don't really know yet how to do it.
Yeah.
So
that's very cool.
You have got a lot of really good ideas there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
and you have the passion for them. So I think you can pull all this off.
Oh, well, thank you.
And like I said, I would totally sign up for the cruise.
I'd love that. We've got one
fun.
person so far. That's great. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, that's something that I hope to kind of flesh out a little bit over the coming months. So
yeah,
I'm working on it now.
Where can people find your work, how to contact you and so forth online? Do you have any social media? You said Instagram.
I have Instagram. It's all Allison David photography for the most part. Like that's what it is on Instagram. That's also my website, which is AllisonDavidPhotography.com. And Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, they're all under that same.
Okay.
So
and do you have a website as well? Right?
That's her name also.
I do have a website.
Okay.
And I also have I've started doing like digital designs, and I had a lot of people ask me, oh, wow, I'd love to see that on my wall, like a picture of whatever on my wall.
Okay.
Wow. So I finally like put together an online shop where I took the photos that I think I heard that about the most. And then I'm also doing some digital designs of food and other things that are also kind of mixed in there too. So that's been kind of exciting, a little different. So
very
right
cool.
on.
Yeah.
Well, Allison, we thank you for making time. I know it took us a minute to find the right day and the time, but we know you're busy. Our podcast, it's called Is Breakfast Included? So if we were having breakfast, what would you have?
Oh, well, I can tell you my breakfast every day now is a smoothie, like with a bunch of superfoods. So I would definitely not have that because like what I have every day. I tend to like a lot of protein in my breakfast. So eggs Benedict, maybe, like, coffee for sure would be in there. Cool. Some kind of really good juice. What about you guys?
I like pancakes.
Oh, yum.
I'm so boring.
No, pancakes rule. I mean, those are so good. Yeah.
I'd probably go with eggs. Or it depends on my day. On the average, I just have oatmeal or cereal or something easy. That's boring.
Easy. So I was trying to think of something like, a little bit more fancy, or like, I was on vacation or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I must be on vacation all the time.
You like French toast?
I do.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
I do.
It's delicious.
I've always like French toast or pancakes. Which one do I like better? And I think I don't know. It's hard to say, but
I think I'd go with French toast.
Yeah, French toast. Really
we
good.
live near a place that has the best French toast.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
But it's so good that it's even better later.
I don't think you can even make it bad, really.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
The thick pieces?
Totally. Yeah. It's the best.
Yeah. Wow. So good. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Yeah, it was good talking to you.
I had a really great time at getting to know you better.
Really nice. Thank you guys for thinking of me.
Right on. Allison David. Did that interview make you hungry? Her talking about all that food and that she gets to take it home with her? Man, I'd love to go and someone hire me to take a picture of some steaks and then say, here, take them home. Ah, ain't that the life? You can find out more about Allison, how you can contact her, how you can connect with her at AllisonDavidPhotography.com. You can find her on Instagram and Facebook, both at Allison David Photography. Go check it out. Support her. If you know anybody that needs some product photography, some food photography, hit her up. She's really good. While you're online, once again, check out ToneShopGuitars.com. Use the code BREAKFAST15 and receive 15% off your first online order. And hell, while you're doing that, go to isbreakfast.com. Check out what we got going on. We have shirts for sale. We have a YouTube channel. We have Instagram that you can go over there and just follow us. Like, comment. Let us know what you think about all our guests that are kind enough to do this show. And while you're at it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And hell, I mean, you've gone that far. Just buy a shirt. Just buy one. Buy two. All right, guys, we are done. Have a great day, and we're going to talk to you next week.